Okay, this is the housing report for the third quarter for 2019. And one of the questions that we get probably more often than anything in the last, certainly the last 3 or 4 months, has been what's going to happen if there's an economic slowdown or even a recession in housing. And it's a good question. And we don't think that they'll have a significant impact. And the reason we look at historical data to take a look at it to guide us on that. And in Michigan, if you look at the last 6 recessions, 4 of the last 6 recessions, home values actually went up anywhere from 2 to 4%. The only 2 they went down were 2 recessions that were housing-based recessions. Of course, the last one was the one we remember the most and was the most severe of the 6. But in general, if the recession isn't caused by housing, then housing has fared very well in those recessions. And in fact, if there's an economic slowdown, housing will not be the cause of this time either. Housing actually is very healthy in historical terms. Inventories are, although they've been rising, they are lower than historically we've seen. Demand is up, household formations are up, incomes are rising, employment is up, and actually mortgage debt is down. Those second mortgages that were one of the causes of the last recession are almost gone for the most part in the marketplace. So overall, if there is a slowdown, housing will go into that and fare very well. The caveat to that for us being in Michigan, of course, is that we are very auto-related still, and probably the one sector that will be affected by a slowdown is auto. So we might feel it more than the rest of the country, but overall, one of the things to keep in mind is that long-term demographics beat short-term economics. Recessions last usually in months, not years, but you have your home for years, not months. So the reality is that over the next 15 to 20 years, the demographics that really drive demand for housing are very strong. You have all the different demographic groups. You have baby boomers, you have Gen X, you have Gen Y, millennials, and you've got Gen Zs, all moving towards some sort of housing-related action over the next 15 years or so. So if you look at the long-term outlook, you'll see that the strong demand for housing is very strong. There'll be ups and downs, there'll be economic slowdowns, there'll be economic accelerators. All those things will happen, but overall, we think that the long-term outlook is great. And even in the short term, if there's a slowdown, we think housing will fare very, very well for that as well. For the third quarter of 2019 for Northwest Michigan, the market is changing. It's settling a little bit. Inventories are rising slightly, and sales might be settling slightly. Now, some of that's seasonal. But one of the good things about Northwest Michigan is that it is really outperforming most of the rest of the state. So whereas Southeast Michigan and Southern Michigan might be catching a little bit of a sniffle, we're seeing a little bit of that in Northwest, but less so. And one of the big reasons is because there are a lot of movers from Southern Michigan to Northern Michigan. It's keeping demand strong, particularly for the middle to the upper end markets. So we're seeing a little bit of burst of activity there. But long-term trends, what we're seeing is that the market is settling down. Prices have gotten a little bit ahead of what the typical buyer can afford. So that's pulling back demand a little bit in the marketplace. So although we're seeing a good activity at Northwest Michigan, you can expect maybe a little bit of settling of demand as we go into 2020. So for sellers, what does that mean? That means that first offer you might get, negotiate with it, don't let it slide by. It means that you want to make sure your home is the latest updates possible and it's move-in ready and it fits the demand for where your home is in the marketplace. For buyers, keep in mind that those move-in ready updated homes are going to still go very fast. But there's another segment. There's a segment that's moving a little bit slower, those 60 to 90 days in the market. So look at those. Take a little extra work, but there's opportunity in there, particularly as the market settles a little bit, both for the winter season, but also in general for the market. So take advantage of the counsel that your realtor can give you. When the velocity of the market changes, and the velocity is changing, it's not as fast as it was, or we'll be moving into a market that's not as fast as it was. We can anticipate that in 2020. then your realtor can help you with that, with where to place, what decisions to make, how you should act, how you should market your home. So take advantage of what we have to offer, and thank you.